Oh,
How you doing, sir, today?
I'm doing great.
Okay, everybody, welcome to our first installment of Peace and Power. That's what we call this program today. It's me, Mr. Pelu, my usual guest, my usual co-host, Jen Wallace. She's sick right now. She's unfortunately she's sick. My co-host, so I'm gonna have to carry it by myself. My co-host is sick. Her employer came down with the well, tested positive for COVID, so she might have COVID. And she's been sick, so we pray for her that we have to pray for her that everything's going to be okay with her, and this, that, and the third. So we'll pray for Jen. So everybody, um, this is Peace and Power with Imam Councilman Alfred Mohammed, and now do you want to begin, sir, with a prayer first before we start our in-depth discussion?
Yes, why not? It's always good to
Okay.
pray.
Hmm.
It's always good to pray. But I
Yes,
like
yes,
for the
yes.
host to pray. If your host will lead us in prayer, that'll be good.
Okay, I'll open us in prayer. Okay, then. So everybody, Audible Mishnah regime. Thank you, God, for having us here today and having us come to gather together, share wisdom with the world, not just for the Muslims, but for all people. I have a special prayer for my good friend and co-host. Unfortunately, she's sick today, Miss Jen Wallace. Hope that she have a speedy recovery. Hope that what we discussed today will bring light to the people and inform people on how we are to live better lives the way you want us to live, oh God. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا في حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Amin. Okay, so Imam,
Yes,
let's
sir.
start. Yes, let's start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself. Who are you? What made you? How did you get to where you are now in your understanding of life, spirituality, and humanity through your experience?
That's a good one. Well, quickly, I am the grandson of Lula Nallen that was born 1863, so she says, probably a little older, in Appomattox County, Virginia. To be exact, she was born in a place called Appomattox Courthouse. It is the place
Okay.
where Lee surrendered, General Robert E. Lee surrendered. She
Yes.
was there as a child when he surrendered.
Oh.
So that's the first formation of me as a person. So I am the grandson of a living slave that I knew, and I'm the son of Birdie Desmond, a super religious person, very spiritual, very religious, and a very rational father, Joseph Booker, born on the Booker plantation. His granddaddy was listed in the 17 in the year that James Tyler was president. So my roots is
Okay.
deep in the county of Buckingham, Appomattox, and I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia, the
Okay.
same county that Thomas Jefferson was born in. So all
Okay.
those forces influenced me, but I want to add another force. My elementary school principal was a man by the name of Gordon Emmons. He
Okay.
was the grandson, great grandson of Sally Hemings.
Mm.
So I am connected by intersectionality, as the scholars would call it, of slavery, psychology, religion, and African mysticism.
Okay.
So at an age of 5 years old, about four, I believe, I got the call to preach. Now, I grew up in a Baptist home. My mother was very spiritual. My mother would always gather. I'm the last of 13 children, the last of 13. So I've always felt a spiritual gift. But at the same time, I had a rational, opening mind toward the freeing of African American people. Now, that created a conflict in my home. My daddy was what you would call a race man, and my mother was a super religious, fundamentalist Christian. lady that probably would have had a heart attack. Well, she almost had a heart attack when I became a Muslim. She said, "Boy, you're gonna get into something that you will never be able to get out of." And my
Hmm.
baby boy is gone. So, my mother and I never lived to reconcile, but most of my family, being the last of 13 children, looked to me for spiritual guidance. And so, from the age of maybe 5 years old, I hung around some of the great preachers of our time: Vernon H.W.B. Johns, Martin Luther King Sr., Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, Mordecai Johnson, and others, including being in the presence of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay, let me
All
stop you real quick, sir. Let me stop you real quick, because now when you say these names, I have to now stop a little bit because now you're saying some very prominent figures in history, right?
yes,
Especially in African American history. A lot of people know about Martin Luther King Jr., but you said you've experienced Martin Luther King Sr. So I want you to go off a little bit of a tangent about Martin Luther King Sr. because a lot of people never we hear about him because through his son, but tell us your experience with Martin Luther King Sr. because that will give us a little bit of what made Martin Luther King Jr.
as I would say to the audience, I didn't know I never had any real personal contact with Dr. King Jr., but I had a lot of personal contact with Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. He used to come to Lynchburg to Virginia Seminary to speak. And my mother, being a very shy lady, introduced me to him. I was probably knee high to a duck, and he picked me up. And he said, "Boy, you're going to be a great preacher and going to be a great help to our race." So I was
Man.
always, he would see me someplace and he would recognize me. He called me that little boy. And during the civil rights movement, I was affiliated with a preacher by the name of Virgil Alexander Wood. And he remembered me. And I remember in 1976, I had a brief sprint back into church, and I rode around Harlem with Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., a very powerful man. I don't believe that would be, I don't believe, I know that wouldn't have been a Martin Luther King Sr., Jr., had it not been for Martin Luther King Sr. It's very interesting to note that some would call him Daddy King, was a powerful community organizer. His voice would ring for blocks. He could preach with the best of them, but he was also an organizer. And I also knew his brother, A.D. King, who was quite a preacher, actually a better preacher than Martin Jr. So I'm a child steeped in the church, but also was a seeker. And while I went to the Baptist church, I would also slip and go to other churches. Because when I grew up, being a Baptist meant that you didn't have any contact with Pentecostal. You definitely didn't have any contact with Catholic. So I grew up in an era when religion was very strict along strict religious lines. But what got me really more involved was the civil rights movement was coming alive. But there was another conflict that came about in my life. One day I didn't go to church, and some brothers knocked on my door with bow ties, offering me a bean pie and to come to the Temple of Islam, which is in 1962. And I joined. But I stayed a hot minute because my mother, I was so afraid she would die of a heart attack.
Okay, let me ask you this though, real quick. In 1962, right? So you joined 19. You come. They meet you 1962. Tell us about 1962, because that's we're close to the usual keynote year or usual iconic year is 64, right? But what was
Right.
going on in 62? What was going on in the whirlwind that you found yourself coming into this new paradigm with the nation? Give the audience a little feel about the time. Exactly how far has civil rights gone? Can you say the civil rights?
The
How
civil
far?
rights movement was just getting started. But remember, I was born after Emmett Till. In fact, Emmett Till was born the same year I was born. Max Parker was being killed. There were a black young lady at Florida A&M University who had been pulled off the campus, raped, and 5 white men were found not guilty. So that's the era I'm coming from.
Mm.
The
So
civil rights movement is just beginning. The freedom rides have not yet taken place. It was still the era of the NAACP, but my father joined an organization called the Lynchburg Improvement Association, which was really a precursor organization to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And I got to meet Reverend Ralph David Abernathy, Reverend Y.T. Walker.
yeah.
But my mentor and the person who formally ordained me was a guy by the name of Virgil Alexander Woods of the Diamond Hill Baptist Church. And that's where I got involved. So I was kind of torn now. I'm identifying with a Muslim as a Muslim. I'm not eating pork. I'm not drinking liquor, but I'm heavily involved in the civil rights movement. So everybody was saying this is a very confused guy. At least in
Okay.
my
Let
family,
me tell
they
you this
thought I was
then. Let me
crazy.
ask you this then. So at that time, the nation of Islam as we know it, right? So you say you were involved, even though you were identifying as Muslim, you were identifying with the nation. So was there a conflict with the nation and the civil rights movement in general? Like, why would they call you confused? Well,
My
what was
family
the
thought I was
separation?
confused. My family thought I was confused. Uh, in a sense, I saw both sides. I disagreed with nonviolence, but I also agreed that we should be fighting for civil rights. And I must say, a thing that worked in the civil rights movement favor, the Lynchburg Nation of Islam was very disorganized and fell apart. So I joined up with the civil rights movement with a man by the name of Willie Ricks and Virgil Wood, and I began to travel the United States, involved in canvassing, voter registration drives, and demonstrations. I became what they call a freedom fighter, or a child of the movement.
Okay, okay. So you become a child of the movement. The in Lynchburg you base. You said some other powerful names too. Because me being also a Morehouse guy, Abernathy is a big name for us. Mays Hall. I remember these people. Tell me about your experience with just for me. Tell me about your experience with Abernathy and and Mays. I really want to know. Just as a Morehouse man, as someone with affiliation with Morehouse College, those are big names over there. And tell us your experience with them and what they meant to you in your interactions.
Dr. Mays was first of all a superhero because he used to write a column in all the black newspapers. The newspaper I got was called the Norfolk Journal and Guide. And also, I was from, you probably know the great Lawrence Carter, the dean of the chapel at Morehouse.
Um, is he the dean now?
Yes, he's been the dean there for the last 40 years, Lawrence Carter.
I probably remember. I don't remember him. Okay, but I wasn't too much into chapel. I wasn't too much into chapel when I was over there.
Well, Lawrence
Yeah.
Carter went to school at Virginia Seminary and College, which I want to explain was the harbinger of black preachers. Most black preachers in in my time, either gone to Virginia Seminary, Union Seminary, or Shaw. So over 400 or 500 preachers would come in and were trained at Virginia Seminary. It was a hotbed of teaching. The Reverend Vernon H.W.B. Johns taught there. So I was always hanging around the seminary. So a lot of these guys, and remember, I'm a very short little guy, a loud voice, and I don't know, for some strange reason, these guys took to me. And I would hang around them, I would listen to them, and they kind of look, I think they kind of got a kick out of me. Because to be a little small kid guy, I was very much interested in asking them all kinds of questions.
Okay, so you know these guys. So now you're a child of the movement. You come in the movement. You you meet all these people. You do this and that. So now you're now the civil rights movement's kicking on. You said in '62 it had just started. So when does it pick up? So how does it pick up? So that means that means it was a very short time that the movement accomplished the Civil Rights Act. It accomplished in like only like 2 years in a short time. It made the monumental legislation. Like how was it so effective so fast?
The civil rights movement has been growing since the 40s.
Okay.
And there were efforts by people such as well, even and there were many other people. Some of them, I think, were affiliated with the Communist Party.
Okay.
And as a result, they were already planning the civil rights movement. So
okay.
It suddenly took place. First, it was the interstate commerce law they challenged, which means that you could ride on the back of ride on the bus. When I was growing up, you could not ride on the front of the bus. I'm one of the first people in Lynchburg to challenge them. I never get sitting on the bus in Lynchburg, and a Caucasian lady said to the bus driver to tell him he cannot sit up front. So she said, "Sonny, you can't sit up front. You have to go back there with the color people." I said, "Mister, you know that the Interstate Commerce Commission said I could sit wherever I want on the bus." So she's trying to get the bus driver to throw me off the bus. I mean, I guess he was busy trying to take his bus to do the route. He didn't pay her any attention at all. So finally, she said she tried to get another Caucasian lady to tell me to go to the back of the bus. I wasn't going back to the back of the bus. So she finally said, "I guess it's all right. He's just a little nigger." So that was my experience.
Yeah. Okay, so now you coming up, but you said the nation isn't organized in your area, so you do mostly with the with the civil rights movement, maybe outside of the nation. So teach us about how you got into the nation and what was your experience there and what you learned from different people as you came up. What you learned from these what you learned when you came in nation. You said it was disorganized where you were from. So how did that affect you and your involvement? Because you started identifying as Muslim, but what did the Muslim identity mean to you at first?
Well, it meant diet. It also meant that I like a lot of what the scriptural interpretation of the Nation of Islam was at that time. And the man that I was bonded to was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I heard other ministers, they used to come to Richmond, and I paid them little or no mind at all. The person that I looked to, and just coming from a background as a preacher, people who didn't seem to have very good roots in scripture, I paid little attention to them. There were people like Minister Lucius Biar, who had been a Seventh-day Adventist. There was a minister in Richmond, Virginia, whose whole church had got converted from Pentecostalism to the Nation of Islam. Minister David is his name. So I'd heard Minister Malcolm one time. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't impressed at all. Because I also knew a minister in Lynchburg, all light-skinned guy, about as tall as Malcolm, smoother than Malcolm. He was the minister in Lynchburg. Of course, he didn't last very long, and the nation collapsed in Lynchburg. So now I'm drifting. I'm heavily involved in the civil rights movement, but I took another turn. After around 1965, civil rights movement was dying down. They were accomplishing things. I joined the United States Navy Reserve and went off to active duty. And from there, I joined Job Corps. That's a weird thing. And Job Corps sent me to the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire. I had a beginning in the Black student movement, the anti-peace movement. But I hate to say it, some of the worst people I've met in my life were in the Black nationalist movement. People like Eldridge Cleaver and many others. I didn't like these guys. They appeared to be more thugs than they were civil rights, social activists. So by now, I'm taking another look at the Nation of Islam. I'm reading the material. I'd already got my X. I used to keep it with me in my bag, but I hadn't. See, in the Nation of Islam, you get an X, but that X has to be registered with a temple. So although I had my X, I was not formally affiliated with a temple until 1969, where I came into the temple, back into the temple in Buffalo, New York. And one of the first ministers I heard when I returned to Islam was a minister by the name of Minister Louis X, later known as Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Okay. So now you're in the nation. You're in the civil rights movement. You're in this. Why did you choose the Navy? What was the civil rights movement's relationship with the United States as a regime at the time? What was his relationship to the military? What was his relationship to the American identity? What was his relationship to even law enforcement? Because now we having a big thing. It's not too much against the military, but more against the police. But you're from the civil rights movement. You're from that era. You're the grandson of slaves. You're into the Nation of Islam, who are saying the white man is the devil. You're into all these stuff. What drives you to the Navy? Is this job opportunity or just an educational opportunity?
Basically, it was a combination of getting the hell out of Lynchburg, Virginia, and interesting life, because I was alienated pretty much from my family, and I was looking for an opportunity to go to school. It was that which kind of drove me.
Okay, so you were able to go to school. You get the things. So and this is something that even me online, I have a lot of issues with these, even with people from different countries, like especially in the UK. A lot of them say, "Oh, why would a black person join the military, or why would a Muslim join the U.S. military? Why would this, that, and the third?" And I'm like, they don't understand. In America, the military is very much a come up. When people join the military, they come to get out of the situation they were in, and find a way to get a better life, get more opportunities, get educated. So a lot of people don't understand what the military means to Americans. So a lot of people around the world, not around the world, mainly Britain, they're perplexed by why African Americans, especially Muslims, go in the military. And I tell people that even me, my Imam in DC right here, he's a retired in the military. He's the head of Masih Muhammad. He's a retired Air Force. So I'm like, it's a common thing here, because it's many reasons, and a lot of people don't understand that it's more to it. And even if you're American, it's like you're from here, so you feel It's an opportunity for you. The institution is there. You might as well benefit from the institution that's there, in the country that you were naturally born into. Okay, so now you're seeing, you're in the nation now. You've heard Malcolm. You told me earlier that you're attached to Elijah Muhammad. You see Lewis X, later be known as Farrakhan. How does the nation move in those years coming after, when now you come into 1965, you come into the future? How are things moving in the Black Islamic identity or Black Muslim identity? Also in the civil rights put together, how are things moving at that time? And what goes on? Tell us about that. 'Cause a lot of people are interested in those pivotal years, because a lot of people outside don't understand the evolution from the nation to War of Deen to Farrakhan to everybody. So now it's time for you to tell the people, because a lot of people don't know, especially we have a significant UK audience. A lot of them don't really understand this. So I want you to tell us about this pivot, this pivotal time, the different factors at play, and what's going on.
Well, first of all, I had two brothers. One was a United States Marine, and I remember when I became a Muslim, he said, you don't have the real thing, boy. That's what he called me. He said, boy, you don't. And so he made the motions of what now I learned to be Salat. And he said, you know how to do that? I said, no. He had been a Marine in then called French Morocco. He was a Marine guarding the United States Embassy in Rabat. And in the process, a young Moroccan had tried to reach the ground, and my brother, unfortunately, had to kill him. So then my other brother, older brother, Joe, I'm from family 13. My oldest brother is about 25 years older than me. So they had served in World War II. My brother had served post-civil rights, post-Korean War. So I had a lot of military in my family. So again, I was just trying to get away. I wasn't really some gun-ho patriot. One thing I knew, I didn't want to stay in Lynchburg. And by then I had dropped out of high school, and I'm now looking for a chance to get a GED and get some education. So for me, the military was not the be-all, evil all. First, I got a good meal. For the first time in my life, I had gold glasses. So a lot of good things happened with the military. I was in the Navy Reserves. And so after a period of 2 years in the Navy Reserve, I was free to either go in formally or go leave. And I decided to leave, and that's where I ended up going into Job Corps, where I got my GED and a scholarship to go to the University of Wisconsin. But now I'm meeting with all these confused African Americans, militant Black Panthers, and really a host of very crazy people. No centeredness. I began to rethink the Nation of Islam and found that it was still the most stable, most loving brotherhood and sisterhood that ever existed here on the shores of North America for African American people. And I say that because I studied all these groups. I didn't find the church warm. I do say that there was a camaraderie in the civil rights movement. By about 1965, the civil rights movement had fallen apart. SNCC is beginning to disintegrate. SCLC is disintegrating. And this is about 3 years before the passing of Dr. King. Actually, after the passing of Minister Malcolm, the nation grew by leaps and bounds because it was the only stable national institution. The nation was a real family. Once you joined the nation, you knew you were in a family. People help you get a job. People help you get opportunity. It was a substitute family. I had more love and affection for members of the Nation of Islam than I had for members of my biological family. Now, I also must say, even the black clergy, they weren't warm to each other. The only warm institution I come across, remember, I come across the top leaders. But I found the warmth, the brotherhood, the love in the Nation of Islam. So in late 68, early 69, I rejoined the Nation of Islam. And I've been in Islam ever since. That's where in 1971, I became very close to a man that was Minister Malcolm's assistant, Benjamin Kareem. And he gave me the complete history of Malcolm. And I got to know that. I'm also mentioned in a book by Les Payne, The Dead is Rising, as the collaborator, as he puts it, for the book Malcolm, The Dead is Rising.
Okay. Now, that's good. That's good. So you're here, right? So now you've been in Islam the whole time, but I want you to tell the people about the evolution, the shift, because there's a shift that a lot of people don't know. From Warith Deen to from Elijah to Warith Deen and all this, right? So I want you to tell everybody about the shift and where were you in the shift? How did you feel about it at the time? What was going on in your mind when the shift? Because that's a pivotal point in the development of American Islam that is not always understood around the world.
Yeah,
right?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for asking that question. That's the most important question I believe you could have asked of all this. Not that you have other important questions about the Nation of Islam and the question. About 1965, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had stopped writing. The only time you would see an article by him was he was saying, pay your bills. There was an article in the paper, pay your bills and how to get a job and keep a job. And Savior's Day 1971, the first Savior's Day I went to, he was talking about cleaning the black man up. The next year, 1972, he said, I am not teaching you Islam. I'm setting you up for the next man. I'm cleaning you up and getting you ready to travel among the Muslim world. You're not yet clean. You're a baby nation. And the last speech he gave was 1974. He had two Turkish brothers up on the podium. He said, these are your brothers. And he said, you have to really, you sisters wearing these long white dresses, you have to be clean inside of those dresses. So he began to address the internal issues of our people. He also said, stop blaming the white man for your conditions. So in 1975, when he passed, first of all, I didn't believe he had passed. Because every year we always had this belief that every year before the convention, and it was generally true, they were always saying Elijah going to die, or the Honorable Muhammad going to die. So I didn't pay attention. So I went to Chicago. I was in Chicago. And I actually went to the auditorium. And they showed a picture of Honorable Muhammad in a film. And I just was thinking that he was going to walk out. The program went on. Muhammad Ali pledged his allegiance to the new leader. Jesse Jackson got up, pledged his allegiance to the new leader. Louis Farrakhan got up, pledged his allegiance to the new leader, and burst out the crying. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the will of Allah, and Minister Wallace D. Muhammad is the will of Allah. So I immediately identified with Imam Warith D. Muhammad. And because my teacher, was a man by the name of Benjamin Kareem, the man that introduced Malcolm the day he died, and he was also very close to Minister Wallace Davis. And back in the Nation of Islam days, he told me you should get to know Minister Wallace. So from 1975 on, I had a perfect smooth sailing. I don't say I knew a lot about Islam, but in 1978, I went to Chicago, met with Imam Muhammad, and he appointed me Imam to be his assistant in Chicago. I later learned that he said the officials should have long brought that brother to me. You could see that he called me the Lily Man. I used to always be kind of insulted by that name, but I didn't realize he was saying to people, that guy's a religious genius. And I think I have ate, slept, dreamed religion all of my life. It made me a very uncomfortable person, not the greatest husband, a fairly good father, not a great friend, because I'm preoccupied with giving the right picture of religion to people.
Okay. So now you're preoccupied with giving the right view of religion. So in the shift, what was brought, and because see, we still have the nation here, we still have the NOI to this day, organization calling itself the NOI. And you said you come to bring the right view of religion. So explain to the people what the NOI was, what it is today, and what was Warith Deen Muhammad, and what was the vision that you attach yourself to going forward after all this, because it's a lot of controversy behind this. Even people in the chat right now, they're talking about the how Elijah Muhammad said God Allah was man, how you know, what else? They're talking about the different beliefs in the nation in our chat. So explain to the people for their clarification, what was the beliefs of the nations, and where did it go to with the Imam Warith Deen Muhammad? What was the change, and why did Farrakhan return to the nation, or even if you don't know why, but what was behind the return of the nation, and what was behind these splits, like because people want to know, because a lot of people always talk about, oh, the black Muslim not really Muslim and this and that third, but a lot of people don't know the nuances. A lot of nuances in the development of Islam and African American. So tell us about that, since you even said that.
Can you give me about 7 minutes? I can explain in 7 minutes. Let's
All right,
first go.
yeah. You can take a 7-minute break and come right back.
I think that first let's get the precursor. Elijah Muhammad had a book called Our Savior Has Arrived. And he was beginning to throw out hints. He said, no man is Allah. We just put that title on it. That was hint one. So it was pretty easy. First, he also said the next one that comes on behind me will teach you the religion. So he said that at a public meeting. Then he had two Muslim brothers from Turkey and said, they are your brothers. So that's before a big audience. This is not private. He'd already started teaching Arabic and Islamic studies in our school system. So Imam Muhammad's job was easy. Not real easy, but it was somewhat easy. Because in 1975, he opens the National Convention reading from the Quran. The dead must rise. So he said all the ministers, including Minister Farrakhan, all the rest of them claimed they were with him. But the reason that they split from Imam Muhammad wasn't about religion. They split with Imam Muhammad because he stopped them from ripping the believers off. Now, I as a minister of the nation and a student minister of the nation, I may shouldn't tell these secrets, but I have to. The ministers of the Nation of Islam would get 10% of all the money that they raised. For an example, in New York, we raised probably $300,000 a month or more. Minister Farrakhan would get $30,000 a month. So when Imam cut all that off, they were pissed off. And they began to plot behind his back to bring the old teachings back. I know Minister Farrakhan doesn't believe that. And how do I know that? Because I've had private conversations with him. September 1975, I said, brother, minister, what do you think of the Supreme Minister? We were calling him that at the time. He said, brother, the Supreme Minister is being modest. He is not just the Mujaddid. He is the Imam Mujaddid Mahdi. Now, I didn't know anything about that, but I later read in the history of the revivalist movement by Maulana Maududi that that's the title that would be appropriate for Imam Muhammad. So the Nation of Islam and its second iteration is nothing but a personality cult of Minister Farrakhan to appease new people who didn't know anything about the Nation of Islam and its intentions. And also, it is because that there are many of the believers, due to bad leadership, slip back into a lot of street behavior because the leaders took them out of the discipline. I was a leader during that time.
Yeah.
And I was the leader of the mosque in Baltimore, one of the largest mosques.
Okay.
I kept my people disciplined. I added recreation to my people. I had psychological help for them. I organized intramural activity for them. And I know that there were a few other leaders who were like that. But they panicked the believers, namely because of materialism. In March of 1975, in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's house at 4845 South Woodlawn Avenue, there were $45 million in the house.
Oh, so it was a lot of, they were pocketing a lot of money.
Yes.
They were pocketing a lot of money from the people.
There was about 1 million members, at least 400,000 brothers at the time, and the average brother was sending $100 to Chicago a month. This was in addition to spending in the local area. So money was coming in, but as fast as it was coming in, they started spending it.
So, hello.
Yes,
yeah, because your phone your reception is a little bit choppy, but it is, but it's okay, sir. But so now they're making all this money, right? Now War of Deen comes, right? So what happens to the money now? He stops making the money. He keeps it. Does the Farrakhan now? Because everybody wants to know about the country. I mean, you know, so we got to get into the specifics of it, and also for our audience, a lot of people asking about the different beliefs of the nation before, like because somebody asked about the Yaqub and the doctor. So, but anyway,
let me take these one piece at a time.
I
want to first deal with the organizational changes. Then I will go to the Nation of Islam theology.
Yeah.
The organization, probably the largest black nationalist organization in the country, is the largest, was collecting a lot of money. And so the leaders, including the Muhammad family, were very, very angry at Imam Muhammad for stop forcing the believers to give money. The money was told to be left in the local areas, develop the people, and at the same time, the Imam Muhammad is encouraging tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of people to go and get regular jobs and to go to college. And I would say 100,000 at least went back, got GEDs, went on to get bachelor's degrees, and they were now working to develop their families. The leaders didn't like that. Now let's turn our attention to the theology of the Nation of Islam. I have a lecture I call The Nation of Islam, a Study in Religious Satire. What do I mean by that? The Nation of Islam, Christianity taught that the white man is God, explicitly and implicitly even today. With the picture that we just went through a few days ago, the picture language of Jesus Christ being a white man. The nation flipped the script and said the white man is the colored man. Yakub grabbed the devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. You know, the skunk is black and white. Who is the colored man? Who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, and the father of civilization. So the white man was reversed and called the colored man. The African American, the black man, was called the original man. So it was satire. The wise among us, which were few, and religious leaders knew what Nabi Muhammad was doing. Some in the Muslim world understood, but they were jealous. Instead, they should, Maulana Maududi, Rahmatullah alayhi, understood in early 1965 that the black Muslims, as he said, should be left alone, and they are coming into Islam. And he recognized Imam Warith Muhammad on Arafat. So Imam Muhammad made a rapid move towards Islam. First year, he made us all to take allegiance in the mixed Shahada chain. That's 1975, including Minister Farrakhan, and told us that our book would be the Quran. Now, I will also say, Nation of Islam told our book was the Quran too, but they told us to put it up on the highest shelf. But we mainly, in the Nation of Islam, we taught from the Bible and from some esoteric lessons. I think I've summed that up. Maybe some of your audience have questions, and they would like to specifically ask me questions.
No. I'm actually about to go. But okay. Someone did have a question, right? So he said satire. So he made a satirical story that NOI members to this day believe as true. Islam is guiding your people. So our audience is asking, if that's satire, if people still believe it's true, right? Isn't that misguiding? Isn't that confusing people? That's a question from our audience. Because that question is again. So he made a satirical story that the NOI members to this day believe as true. Isn't that misguiding your people?
Well, I don't believe that anymore, and there are about 2 million of others don't believe it. So the satire worked for a while until a true teacher came. See, satire and myths may be sometimes good, but in the end, they must be explained. So I want to make that crystal explicitly clear. I and 2.5 million people, and perhaps even more, believe that there's no God but Allah, who comes in nobody's person and is above all persons, rules over the creation, and none of us are equal unto him. And that all human beings were created from Adam. So that worked for the Nation of Islam. And let me tell you another thing. Allah says in the Quran, and before I said this, one of the most evilest myths and plots ever to be perpetrated on a people was the myth that the black man was inferior, that he was the cursed son of Ham. And Allah answered that by saying, well, Makaru, well, Makrullah, Allahu Karin Makrin. And they plot, and Allah plots, and Allah is the best of plotters. So there was a plot started in about 1555, 1400 to put us in an inferiority complex. This Imam here stands to say that that myth has been thrown on his head, and I believe in the oneness of all humanity. So I'm not saying you use a myth to counter a myth, but I can say this. It obviously didn't work, right? Because the myth of the white man being God is over for many people.
But the argument they're saying is that people still believe it. They said even if one man still believes it, isn't that misguiding the thing? That's the argument they're making. Our audience is making. They're saying it doesn't matter if 2 million people or 1 million people doesn't believe it no more. Is that one person that believes something Elijah Muhammad said as fact that isn't true? That's their argument against you, sir. The argument is that even with the satire, people did believe it at a time, and certain people might still believe it. Even if you say Louis Farrakhan doesn't believe it anymore, if he still pronounces it and publicizes that, is that still a problem?
Let me just say this very explicitly. I am a follower of the community of Imam Warith Deen Muhammad. Imam Warith Deen Muhammad didn't start his mission teaching that. He always told us that there is no God but Allah. So I can't be responsible for what Joe Blow believes. I can't be responsible for what Joe Shabazz believes. But truth stands out from falsehood. And therefore, I don't believe it. And millions of others, people who I taught years ago, that old teaching, now believe in the proper teaching of the Quran. So I think that's important. Sometimes we get stuck on stupid. If a man walks down the street with snot running out his nose, 10 minutes later he cleaned it up, should we hold him responsible because he let snot come out his nose?
I mean, but the argument is saying that yeah, I hear what you're saying, but the argument is that because they're rebutting you. They're saying that even though that could be the case, if people are still doing it, was it? I mean, okay, you can say there for a reason, right? But if it still persists, right? If it still persists, and I know you're not responsible for that because you're you made you came into Islam with the War of Deen, right? But the thing is that people want to know, the question they're getting at is that people want to know that it came from this source and it's still there. How are we stopping something that could be considered misguidance? Because they're saying specifically that shouldn't Elijah have said it wasn't true? Shouldn't he have said himself it wasn't true about the creation of white people as not to misguide followers? Because a lot of people complaining about the Yaqub's thing.
I can't speak for him. I can say this to you from what I got from him. He had pretty much denounced that teaching. Now you can accept that or you don't have to accept it. I think I would know the teacher better than you all do. And I would also say that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I don't believe it, and millions of others of us don't believe it. That's it. I believe God is the huh?
Okay. Yeah.
You won't hear me on any program teaching Yaqub's history. You won't hear me on any program teaching. But I tell you something I do know. Africans in the Western Hemisphere have been so damaged that we always will hold a knife in another one's back, even if he walked past the knife. So I you know what I'm saying? You can beat up on me or beat up on anybody else, but I'm gonna tell you something. I've told you clearly what I believe in. So I think you should be looking at what I believe and not what my past belief. I might have
Oh,
walked around with excuse me, I might have walked around with a diaper. I don't wear a diaper anymore. I got a suit on. So should you hold me responsible? Now, if I'm a grown man walking around with a diaper, take me to a mental hospital. So I think we're doing a job by being on this broadcast. And for the past 45 years, I've been teaching the correct understanding of Islam.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, okay. So now we so now we got into your we got into the history of the correct version of Islam and how it came and how it evolved in America, right? So now, where okay now as we move forward, right? Where did Islam go and where do you see it going? Because now Islam came to America. You had the War of Deen, right? But of course, I still got to. I'm going to keep coming back because people want to know. I know you're not nation no more, but a lot of people want to know about the evolution and stuff. But so you have the Farrakhan's, you have the War of Deen. Now you have everything else, but you also have the worldwide Muslim community, right? You have the worldwide Ummah. You have things going on in the world. How did how did African American Muslims incorporate themselves into the worldwide Ummah after they were taught to do that? Because he said it started with Elijah Muhammad in his time. He's telling people, "This is your Turkish brother. This is that. This is that. Let's go to the Ummah." Right. So, how do you see the African Americans incorporate themselves or coming into the Ummah, and what did they offer to the Ummah, and what did the Ummah offer them?
Well, I think the African American offers more to the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam than the Ummah offers to us. I think that the Muslim Ummah is sick and fractured. And I must tell you this, I met with the Muslim leaders, the so-called ulama, all over the world. I made Hajj in 1978, and some of the current leaders of the various Muslim countries, the various Muslim movements, I won't name them, I met them. I was a little child in Islam. I wasn't a child, I was about 31 years old. But I have formally studied at Islam academically. I am now finishing up a doctoral work in Islamic studies. So I know Islam. I think the African American has been neglected by the Muslim world, ignored. And I think the vast majority of the Muslim world, I won't name these groups. I'm a city councilman. I'm one of the only 431 elected officials in the United States. I am the only imam in the whole United States that's an elected official. But I have been totally ignored by all of the major Muslim leaders because they are still looking to make African American Muslims slaves. So I think the African American Muslims have overcome racism. We have overcome white supremacists, and we have overcome an identity crisis. I'm talking about those who are in the association of Imam Warith Muhammad. Now I know that people, they would call everybody else Imam. But when it comes to Imam Warith Muhammad is recognized by at least 4 million of, they'll call him Warith. So that in it by itself is sick. He's Imam Warith, I'm Imam Alfred Muhammad, and I think that respect should be accorded to us. So I see a lot of sick racism in the Muslim world. What I've seen in the Muslim world, I think the Muslim world needs a lot of help. I believe we're the people that are going to help correct it. And I think, for a fact, we're the majority of the Muslims, the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad. Most of the conversions that have taken place started with us. Now, we have some ignorant leaders among us, I agree. But there are many of us who are teaching the Quran. I'm talking teaching it in the Arab and the Quranic language. I don't like to use the word Arabic because a lot of people associate Arabic with following Arabs. I follow the Quran, and it is The sand that was Arabia. I know that. I hope my Muslim brothers get a better picture of us and themselves. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. It's more. It's more. It's more. So we have. So you said you want them to have a better picture of you. So, what is the picture that African Americans want to show the world about Islam? Like they have their view about African Americans and Islam, but what is the view that you want them to know? Like, if there's something you want them to know, like what do you see in them that they need African American or they would benefit from this experience? Like what specifically do you see? That where do you see the Ummah and what do you see the African Americans contributing in their excellence? What do you see? So we talked about the racism, right? What else is there? You said we overcome white supremacy, we overcome the racism. Is it just physical barriers that are causing the problems that we'll overcome, or is it more nuanced than that? Because we have
No,
some that.
it ain't nuance. It's clear. It's explicit. Nuance means something read between the lines. African Americans, African people in the Western Hemisphere, particularly, I don't know as much about Africans and African people in Europe, though I have some contact with them. But I know the African Americans and Africans in the Western Hemisphere, from Rio de Janeiro to Halifax, Nova Scotia, are very damaged people. And you just don't come out of trauma automatically and say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad and Rasulullah, puff the magic dragon, it's all over. No. So my job as an Imam, who all studied psychoanalysis, is to help heal our psyches. So we can do what? Become independent as a people, to develop our own colleges, schools, and universities. To first of all, to stop killing each other. As much as African Americans want to talk about the police brutality, African Americans, and it's happening in England too. We're gonna be coming to England to do our work.
Yeah, we got the English. We got the English in the audience. We got the English in the audience.
I know who's in the audience. I am launching a global campaign, starting in America, right near every Martin Luther King Boulevard. When you get there at Martin Luther King Boulevard in any city, you need an armored car.
I live on Martin Luther King Glenardi in PG County. I live on Martin Luther King in PG County in Glenardi. I live on Martin Luther King.
Let me finish. I'm making a point. If you get near there, you're more likely to be killed by one of your own. And I've launched a campaign called the Anti-KKK. Ken killing Ken. You can't have an economic life if you're frightened of somebody putting a pistol in your head. And what is that? Africans in the Americas have internalized the self-hatred. And I don't care whether they got a pork chop in their mouth or a bean pie in their hands. We're still suffering from the effects of slavery. Number two, part one of Sacred Life, 1A, is building strong families where fathers are in those homes taking care of our children. Do you know how many Muslim men I counsel who have abandoned our children?
I don't know. I mean, I would think the Muslims would do a little bit better. I would think they would do a little better. I would think, but
let me tell you. Let me be honest with you. Can I say something, Frank?
Yes, you may.
Now, this is going all over. Most of us are fresh Muslims, but old niggas. And I can say that as one who's been a leader for 50 years. I've dealt with all kinds of our people. I've worked with our people in penal institutions. I've worked with our people in mental institutions. And everywhere I've gone, I've seen people who are Muslims. And then by intention, by niyat, they are Muslim. By behavior and historical circumstances, they're other than Muslim. And we need a massive Muslim psychosociological healing.
Okay. So, I want to get to some questions from the audience, only because the accent. I promised everybody, anybody asks a serious question,
I'd be glad to answer them. Go ahead,
I'll
audience.
bring it up, right? Somebody asked about. I know you're not. I know you. You left the nation, the beliefs of the nation, but of course we're gonna have people ask you about that. Somebody asked you about, do you believe in the tribe of Shabazz? Tell us about the tribe of Shabazz if you can. What's the story about that?
Well, do I believe in the tribe of Shabbat? No, I don't believe any of those myths that took place in the Nation of Islam. They were myths.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now,
But what's the myth?
let
What's
me,
the myth? What's the myth? Tell us a myth. Tell us a little bit about the myth.
well, the founder of the Nation of Islam was a man by the name of Muhammad Abdullah. He was from Pakistan, and the street he lived on was Shabazz Street in Lahore. And as a result, he named us the tribe of Shabazz. So again, a cruel piece of satire. Satire.
No. That's interesting because I never knew that. So it was named after a street in Lahore. That's where the tribe of Shabazz came. I
It,
never
it,
knew it.
it had no connection because the Nation of Islam uh, also taught us kind of a shame about Africa. So we were all always taught that Africa was some place to be ashamed of. So he called us the tribe of Shabazz.
Okay. I have some more questions. I have some more question. Okay. My my good friend Born Rich said, "What are your thoughts on reparation for African Americans? Is it overdue? Is it feasible?"
Well, born rich, let me say this to you. I think you were already born rich because God created you rich. But it's something that we have to take a look at. I wouldn't rule it out. But I tell you one thing I think we need first is psychological reparation. We have to get our mind back, our soul back. Our soul is all right. But the effects of 400 years of slavery has affected us all. And Imam Alfred Muhammad's ministry will be traveling around the world, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, to do the psycho-spiritual healing of our people. Once we have shown that we are a people, I think it would be fair. I think it would be right for that to be considered. At the same time, I think every African person in the Western Hemisphere should be given free psychotherapy and family therapy because our families have been wrecked.
So who should we trust? This okay? I'm asking you this. I'm asking you this. Then, who should we trust this psychological therapy? In whose hands should we trust the black psychological therapy to be in? Whose hands should we trust that in?
There are good psychotherapists. If people, I don't know all these areas, but anybody wants me to recommend somebody, I can recommend them to you, wherever you are.
Oh, okay, that's a big thing you say. I'm gonna say that. That's a
I,
big trust you're
I
putting in
just
hands.
I know it's healing takes place from someone talking to somebody. It doesn't have to be formal, but most people are not qualified to listen to people. There are people probably right in this audience been molested by their mother, by their sister or brother, have grown up in homes where there were abuse taking place, where daddy popped mama upside the head, mama popped daddy upside the head, frying pans, children were beaten. And
Okay.
if we didn't experience that directly, our grandparents experienced it, and that we suffer from what is epigenetic conditioning. So why am I a guy going to Oxford, but I got a brother going to the penitentiary? Because the epigenetics of the trauma passed through the gene and create a presupposition in that other person that leads them down that other path. So we got a lot of work to do, man.
Okay, so we got a lot of work to do, right? So the reparation question is yes, if we can get it, but we need So the work is psychological. So
But the
okay,
first
so
work, the first work is the first hydra is mental. Then we can make a hydra toward a physical Medina. But we don't make the hydra inside. Remember, the Prophet Muhammad worked on those believers there in Mecca. And then Allah revealed to him to go to Medina and build community. The way we're going to be healed is in community. But we have to work on ourselves. We need to have good modeling to teach us how to have family life. The picture language of the Salat offers great insights into how to run our families.
okay. So I want to get back to your initiative, right? I remember you telling me that it was the anti KKK. Let me go back to my notes. Is the anti KKK, the Urban Peace Ministry, and you're anti kin killing kin, right? So you're anti that, but now we have BLM. What is your overall this is a big question the world wants to know. What is your overall idea about what BLM is, what it came for? Is it really helping about police brutality, about defund the police, and you have your urban peace ministry? How does all that play into the modern political whirlwind or situation that we have today regarding policing America, the state, and black folks and all folks and all folks together, both black and all lives. Put the whole spectrum of the issue. How does the urban thing relate to all that? Your
Well,
um your urban.
the urban peace ministry, I think, supersedes all of those programs. Because I think I have been out last 30 years, 20, 30 years studying and working with people who engage in violence to prevent them from repeating the violence and prevent them from even entering into violence. Let me take a case out of my case file. The person will remain confidential. He so happens to have been a Muslim. He came to me in my capacity as a city councilman and told me he needs a job. I said, brother, you don't need a job. You need a new mind. So you need to come and talk to me about 4 times and let me have some. I need a job. I said, okay, we'll get you a job. Got him a job. 6 weeks later, he tested positive for marijuana. 6 months subsequent to that, he's now in the county jail for murder. So my position is very clear. If Black lives really matter, we would be killing each other. I don't think it's a good thing to call Black lives Black lives. Why don't we say human lives matter? We should see ourselves as not separate from humanity. That's what
Okay.
I
Okay.
all human life matters. And like I said, it's obvious Black lives don't matter because if it did matter, it would be 9,000 of us alive. The second thing, there were probably 900 police killings, but there was not at least 9,000 of us killed each other. Another 20,000 probably shot.
Yeah.
Now here's where I'm coming.
I mean, I hear you. I mean,
I haven't finished yet. I want this to soak in. I propose to the mayor of the city of New York through someone. I do know the mayor, Mayor Adams, that he send 10,000 troops to Rikers Island and bring order there. I worked in Rikers Island. Never were a prisoner. No, everybody think every Muslim he been to jail. I never been to jail, except as a correctional counselor. I think the whole prison system has to be reformed. But we cannot have people raped, slashed, officers stabbed. They have to first have order in these prisons. And I think we have to look at that too. We also have to look at reforming our own children, because many of the people in the prisons, state and federal prisons, I've worked in federal prisons as well, are Muslims. La ilaha illallah Muhammad and Rasulullah with big black spot on their head.
Yeah.
And sticking people with razors and sticking people with bone crushers.
I'm gonna say the truth. Hey, I'm gonna give a side note for everybody. I mean, to tell you the truth, like right now, a lot of the youth in DC area, a lot of the young people now, a lot of them is Muslim, but guess how they're turning Muslim now? You know why? Because their dads are in jail. Their dads are in jail, converting them to Muslim. You know that a lot of people now, their dads, a lot of these young boys now, a lot of them got dads that are in jail, but their dads become Muslim and are making up and are encouraging their kids in jail to become Muslim. But it still shows that it still has an underbelly there of the prison system and the conversion. So that is a big thing. Especially in DC area, us. Everybody goes to federal jail.
It's a nationwide phenomenon. Shepherd and Limelight wrote a song many years ago, Dead is Home and Here to Stay Forever. Our urban peace ministry is going to address that. We're going to bring some of the top ex-killers in the United States to come to our program and tell them what it's like to be in an 8x7 cell. That's not fun. We have to do what we can to prevent. I'm not so much into prison re-entry program. I'm into prison prevention. But going to all of these neighborhoods and working with our young people, straightening our heads up first. And many of them will end up becoming Muslim. But my mission is to change our people's mind and for them to see themselves as human beings. That's the real mission. And then they can make a proper decision as to what religion they will come into. Because those who know the Psalms, listen closely. You can't be a Muslim if you're insane. You have to be sane. You have to have a conscious mind. The word shahada means present. It means presence in your mind. If you don't have a mental presence, you can't be a Muslim. So a lot of guys in jail, they become Muslim because of the fact, for other reasons. And they're not in a state of mind to even choose Islam. And guess what? As an imam, I've seen very few of them come out and be prisoners. You know, I've worked maybe 4,000 or 5,000 men in prison. I don't know about 2 ever came out and became Muslim.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is they give them a lot of laws and orders and everything and don't teach them how to be a human being. Especially with these immigrant Muslims going in these prisons who have no love for these people, no understanding of fiqh. Oh, you said they don't have no understanding of fiqh? No. How can you bring me fiqh that comes from Karachi? You get to give me fiqh from New York Avenue, 125th Street fiqh, Brixton fiqh. Because
Brixton Fit, yeah. Your phone's your reception breaking up a little bit. Hey, come a little bit closer to the mic, sir, because I think your reception breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit better now. Yeah.
All right, good. Well, what I'm saying is, the 5th pillar of Islamic law is that which is customary. So the fiqh has to be from time and space and the environment.
Okay, hey, so that goes into another question from my friend Born Rich. Born Rich says, "What is Islam doing in mass numbers to improve the black situation in America?"
Well, I'm part of that movement that's going to do something to change our whole mind. You're right. Most of the imams are sleeping. They're being woke up for Fajr. They're snoring. That's why Allah says in the Quran, in the Adhan, inspires us in the Adhan, as-salatu khayrun min as-salatu khayrun min. For on the left, on the right side, the conscious side, sleep, the Quran. Well, what we do, what is the salat? The recitation of the Quran. And on our dark side, as-salatu khayrun min. So the direction of the Quran is better than sleep. And Born Rich, you should write me. You sound like you are inspired, but I don't know where you are. But you write me, Imam Alfred at gmail.com. And you sound like you want to help people get rich. Because born rich, Allah says in the Quran, وَوَجَدَكَ إِلَانْ وَأَغَنَّ. And he found you in need and he enriched you. And I told one of the brothers from the Rough Riders, the DMX label, they're members of our community. I said, you tell 50 Cent, Mr. Jackson, that Imam Alfred Muhammad said, don't get rich or die trying. Get rich and live to testify.
That's good. So get rich and live to testify. That's good.
Yeah, any black man can die. We've been dying since we've been here. Learn to live.
Okay, yeah. Hey, so Born Rich said I should give you your information. He gave you the thing already, Born. He gave you his email. But I'll be sure to link y'all together. I'll be sure to link y'all together. So yeah, I'll be sure.
Rich, I need to meet with you. Where are you living at? I like that title.
Hey, he's in Tennessee. He's in Nashville, Tennessee. He's from Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, not Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee. Look, I spent a lot of time in Nashville, Tennessee teaching Islam. I also spent time in Nashville, Tennessee during the Civil Rights Movement. The home of Meharry Medical School, the home of Fisk University, the home of Tennessee State. You're from a great place, Bone Rich.
Yeah.
We need to hook up.
Yeah, we gonna hook you up with Born Rich. We gonna hook up with Born Rich. You know, we have this guy. He keeps asking about the okay, I know this is controversial, but I promise our audience will act. They can ask whatever they want. We have a guy, White Sir Religion. He's asking a bunch of questions, but and it's all on the similar talk about the out of wedlock. See the out of wedlock pregnancies or reported pregnancies or children of Elijah Muhammad. And I know you said you were close to. I mean, he was the one who you gravitated to. So how did you feel about the whole argument with Malcolm and about the pregnancies and all that stuff? Because I mean, the audience wants to know. The audience wants to know. The audience wants to know about things.
First of all, let me tell you all something. If you have an imam and he's a sheikh, I would call him Imam or Sheikh. I call people by that title. If you don't want to call him Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad, and we can have a respectful conversation. But let me tell you something. Most of you are not prepared, but if you read Les Payne's book, The Dead is Rising, you will find this brother, Imam Alfred Muhammad, as a major collaborator on that book. And also, I turned mine and Marable down with a book he read on Malcolm. Most of you don't know the story of Malcolm. Most of you don't know the story of Mr. Muhammad. So I don't think in this period of time I can give you that kind of discussion. It's rather complex. It ain't what you heard. But I'm going to tell you, your brother Imam don't deal with nothing but facts. I don't deal with hearsay. I don't deal with guesswork. I deal with facts. As one guy said, an old TV show said, just the facts, ma'am. And that's what I deal with.
Okay.
And I don't excuse anybody's discussion, but let me tell you this. Mr. Muhammad didn't deal with no young ladies under 18 years old. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of details. I would like to talk to you in an all-men meeting. I'm going to be around now. By the grace of Allah, I'm going to be around. And the book I'm writing, I didn't intend to write this book, but I've served as a collaborator on the last book on Malcolm. And also, Arch Media, I guess they can sue me. I don't give a damn if they sue me or not. But y'all probably saw that Netflix thing on Malcolm. Well, guess who provides the source for that book, that movie series? I did. because I knew Malcolm. I knew all his relationships. I knew Brother Benjamin, Imam Benjamin. I know more about Malcolm than most people on the earth. I just want to say that. So I'm not again.
Okay.
I'm talking not talking from guesswork. But if in
Okay.
probably 2 years from now, I have so many other projects I'm working on. I may finish up this book called Minister Malcolm, the man, the ministry, the myth, the meaning.
Say it one more time, sir. Say it one more time.
Minister Malcolm, the man, the ministry, the myth, the meaning.
The meaning?
Myth, MYTHS, and meaning.
Myths and meanings.
Because a lot of people project their image of Malcolm, but don't know anything about him. I would think that the brother who introduced Malcolm the day he died would know more about Malcolm than most of the people, right? Would you think so?
Who would be with him the day he died?
The man
Yeah.
that introduced him the day he died.
They introduced him. They introduced him the day he died. Okay.
Yeah. Benjamin Kareem said this brother will give his life for you. Don't you think he know more about Malcolm? He was Malcolm's top assistant.
Okay.
All right. And he transmitted to me a lot about Brother Minister Malcolm. And I will stand on the Quran and ask Allah's curse to be upon me if I'm telling other than the truth. I'm not here to make myths, but I'm not prepared at this time to give a detailed discussion about Mr. Muhammad or Malcolm.
Okay.
I'm going to call both of them for your sake, so not to be disrespected. If no one call him Army like Muhammad, I know him. You don't know him.
Okay.
I know his family. You don't know. I knew of Malcolm, but I knew his top assistant. So I know quite a bit about Malcolm. I know all the people with him, including the people they accused of killing him, and also the people that did kill him. So I think I'm one of the last living people that know the whole story.
Okay. So as someone knows the story, I know you're not prepared to give an in-depth, but about those two men, what are the lasting impressions or what is, if you could describe one way to impart how what you gained or the insight that you gained from experiencing these two individuals through your lens, give us a brief something, like a brief phrase to describe both of these people, like a brief synopsis.
Well, let me clear up one thing first. There were actually five-man team. But let me just clear up.
Okay.
The two men that Betty Shabazz, whom I know very well, who I challenged at Medgar College for allowing those two men to be in jail. They had nothing to do with the killing of Malcolm at all. They shouldn't have been in jail, but due to Betty Shabazz and others testifying that they were there, she knew that was a lie. And I challenged her at Medgar College. I said, Sister Betty, you know I love you. And I asked her several questions. She just sat down. I've always been known in the Nation of Islam, even when it was dangerous, to speak the truth. And so far, nobody's killed me. But the two people, Brother Thomas and Brother Norman, had nothing to do with the killings of Malcolm. And the FBI knew that, but they were hoping, the police knew that, they were hoping that they would wreck the Nation of Islam. Because the Nation of Islam was not based on ministers. The Nation of Islam was ran by the men in the Nation of Islam, the fruit of Islam. We were basically a military unit. I hope that's clear.
Okay, 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 okay. So what else? Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so what was I about to get? So this is what you have about these two men. The Nation of Islam was run by the fruit was run by was run by the men. So you said it was five men, right? So what? So one was Malcolm, one was um Elijah. Who's the five? Who the three
I know
other
I'm
men?
talking to five people that killed. I'm talking to five people that
Oh,
killed
okay,
Malcolm.
okay. Oh,
I'm
five
talking
people
to
killed
five
Malcolm.
people that killed Malcolm. I'm not talking the Minister Malcolm. But the two men that they accused of killing Malcolm were not the people who killed Malcolm.
Okay, 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 okay. So now, after they died, right? So now Malcolm's dead. So he's dead. We remember him, right? Remember
Mm-hmm.
him as this great hero, right? So he's this great hero is a great hero for us. Do you think that that our lionization of Malcolm is something that even if it's something that should be preserved for our benefit? Do you think what we got from what we got of Malcolm, like he's like the prototype of the black male leader in America in a way. He's like the prototype, right? How valuable do you think is that mold for our future and
I don't. I
development and
don't
our
think.
thinking?
I don't think it's valuable at all. And I don't lionize Malcolm. I just tell you that. And it would require probably a 300-page book to tell you I don't. So I won't try to take a 5-minute blog and try to address it.
Okay, okay. I have a question from the audience. The audience member says, okay, what do you say to black nationalists who insist that black people should not be Muslim and that Muslims are not black?
Well, I can say to them and Dr. John Henry Clark, a Sunday school teacher, Dr. Ben Yohanan, what do they say to Sheikh Anta Diop? There's some of us who are dyed in the wood Christians and feel we just have to defend Christianity as a white man, and we'll say whatever it takes to please him. And they, Chancellor Williams and all of them, none of them, if they were alive, would come and debate me. Because the glorious days of Africa would end under Islam. And I'm not speaking as somebody who read one book on African Islam. I'm speaking as a guy who was kicked out of the PhD program at the University of Wisconsin in African Studies after taking at least 10 courses and reading maybe 7,000 books. I must honestly tell you, I didn't read the sources in Arabic, but I did read them in English. But I have a fairly working knowledge of Arabic and Islam in West Africa. So they can say what they want.
Okay.
Our
No,
people are
because there's
always,
a lot of people like that. Because a lot of people say, because the reason why they're asking that, because a lot of people say, oh, you have split loyalties. If you're Muslim, you're not really loyal to black, and if you're this, that, so that's why people ask. Because that's
well,
it.
you know what I said to them? They obviously didn't read the great George Wilmot Blyton, Christian, Islam, Christianity, and the Negro.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you mean you mean Christianity, Islam, and the Negro race
right,
by Blyden?
right.
Yep.
Christianity, Islam, and I read it about 55 years ago, so my memory may be, but I
Yeah.
read it.
Yep.
But let me
That's
just say this to you. Whatever religion a person has, I'm not going to try to take it away from it or force one down his throat. And I think a person who is decent, that man obviously is not from Africa because Africans don't think like that. It's some African American or in England somewhere else who basically hates himself and has fallen subconsciously under sway of Christianity, and he would say that. And if I were in an audience with him privately, one-on-one, he might break down and cry. Because when I finish examining his psyche, he would see he is nothing but a destroyed African.
Okay. Okay. So now about religion and psyche, right? What do you what I know you have an interest in psychology, so what do you think religion has to offer psychology, and what does psychology have to offer religion? Because that's a big thing. Because okay, why do we have religions? Is it psychological or not? What is the psychological impact on believing in religion, on religion to your standpoint as somebody who has an interest in both? Where does
Well,
psychology?
religion is a guidance system. It guides you to science. Psychology came out of religion. I mean, Freud stole from religion. Jung was honest with his understanding of religion. But there were Muslims like Khaldun, Ibn Khaldun, and many others who had studied the human psyche. The human being has a psyche. And in some cases, it has to be rearranged if it has been damaged. What Allah says in the Quran, Laqad Kalakan and Sanafi Austin Tuckway. We have created man and the human being in the best of mode. Then it goes on, boom, and the rest is, and he can fall to the lowest of the low. So I'd like to work with a man before he becomes Clarence Little, who has experienced violence in his life, been abandoned. Clarence Little, if you don't know, was the most prolific serial killer in America. He was a black man. A black, an African American, whatever you want to call it, Negro, colored. So we have some psychopaths among us. Some of them are walking right around in the streets of Chicago and in your city and maybe in your family. My goal is to approach them and see how we can heal them from that trauma.
Okay, okay. So traumas. Okay, we talk about traumas, but would you believe that slavery was a big trauma to the African American community?
I would be a damn fool if I don't know. I don't believe it. I know it.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the important reason why I had to bring it up, because we get questioned a lot, and there's a question coming up from some people in like Reanimator, like a lot of people asking about Islam and slavery, and how you feel about Islam's history in slavery, and about some nominally Muslim countries only giving up slavery all the way into the 1970s, and this, that, and the third. We're getting these questions, of course, and people want to know, as an African American who's a veteran of the civil rights movement, who lived through the civil rights movement, had parents who lived through Jim Crow, had grandparents who were slaves and came out and were slaves to Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. I want to be historically accurate. I had a teacher who was.
Oh yeah, teacher. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're right. I messed up. It was your teacher. But anyway,
my grandmother was a slave. Now
your grandma was a slave, and your teacher was the one descending. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, but you're right. I'm so sorry about it. I was getting jumbled up.
I can't document it. I believe my dad was a slave. Was the grandson of a slave master who had an illegal sex with my grandmother.
Okay. So with all that in your history, how do you view Islam's history with the issue of slavery? Because we get that question and people want to ask it, and that's a big controversy.
Let me tell you something. Slavery has been with us since the beginning of time, and I would urge our audience to read a book called "Slavery and Social Death" by the great historical sociologist Orlando Patterson. Slavery in any form is to be condemned. I don't care who practices it. Slavery is being practiced right now today in Haiti and a lot of other places by Haitians. So, and on many streets of America right now, down the street, your friendly, no, I won't name him, are committing slavery. There are women right today in slavery are being slapped, are being forced to go out. Yes, we have a lot.
So So pimping, you think pimping is a form of slavery? Pimping is that what you're talking about?
Pimping is definitely a form of slavery.
Okay, okay, okay. So, okay, so, Borich again. I got another question from Borich. Borich says, "Do you believe that integration was helpful or harmful to the black community? Did the civil rights leaders walk us into a burning building?" That's from
Well,
Borich.
born rich, you're on to something. Well, I hate to tell you, born rich, since you're a thinker, I would urge you to read a book by Harold Cruz called Plural but Equal. Basically, our thinkers didn't have anything to do with the formulation of speed segregation and integration. It was given to us by other people. I think it has been harmful. I don't know what's the high school down there in Nashville, Pearl High School. I don't know whether they eliminated Pearl High School or not. But many of our schools been decimated. Institutions have been decimated. So we haven't gotten the good end of the stick because we have not been a people. And not being a people, others would do for you that which you could do for yourself.
Okay, okay. So we've not been a people. But we still have to get it. So, okay, so if we're not being the people, was integration better or worse? Net, if you had to say better or worse, right?
I would say
Just
worse because we were becoming a people. We were becoming a people. Now, I know some of you are going to disagree with me, but I'm going to say this after I say this. We had a national Negro press. We had a national basketball, national sports leagues. We had neighborhoods that we shopped at. I remember when I first came to Chicago, you could go lines and lines. You would never see nothing but African Americans shopping with each other. And in many other places, not just Greenwood and Oklahoma. We always cite Greenwood. There are a lot of other places where that happened. We had large insurance companies. Now, maybe Allah bring the thought back to me. I want to make another comment on.
no, because we were talking about the net value of integration or lack of integration, and you were going like
Oh
back in
yeah,
the day.
I know where I'm going. I know exactly where I'm going. Integration has been, for the most part, a disaster because it meant the disintegration of us as a community, and all kinds of terms like ghetto appeared. But I'm going to say something to you all, and I don't want you to respond to it. I want you to think about it. As your elder, I'm 74 years old, so I think sometimes when an older person talk, maybe sometimes it's not good to talk, just listen. The man that welded us together as a people, somebody you all been taught to hate, that is Mr. Elijah Muhammad. For the first time in our history, we have thought of ourselves as a nation. That's a powerful concept. That's different than being just a people. So there wouldn't be no Malcolm. There wouldn't be no Black Association had it not been for the great work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Was he flawless? Absolutely not. Was he teaching Al-Islam? Absolutely not. But his sense of bringing us together as a people and even thinking of us as a nation. And it was beautiful that he put Islam in it. And I'm going to tell you something. 80% of the African Americans they took you along or taken along would tell you they rather identify as being Muslim. And as soon as we start getting strong, good leadership like myself and people like Born Rich, Islam will grow and grow and grow and grow. But not Islam of just a prayer rug, but the Islam of building schools, Islam of building cultural centers, the Islam of building sports leagues, the Islam of building political power. That will be real Islam. Islam is not just ritual. Islam is reality. It is institutional built. I'm sorry, y'all. Excuse me. I got a little high now. I got to start preaching now. Yeah, you know, it's dangerous to take Virgin Bay Jasmine's boy and put him on a talk show.
Now, and Born got a show too. Born, he do the same thing we do. He do the same thing we do. He got a show too. We hook you up,
No, no,
but
you didn't hear me. I said
mhm.
it's dangerous to take Virgin May Desmond's little baby boy and put him on a talk show when he been used to preaching. I slipped out of trying to be interviewed. That's why I'm preaching. So y'all
No,
forgive
that's
me.
okay. That talk.
It's
Okay,
all good.
okay. Because Born, he's not a Muslim, so he said he's not gonna go that far. He said, 'cause, Born, he's not a Muslim, so he said he's not gonna go that far. But
Born, hey, Born, you know what? I love you though anyway. I like your spirit. I pick your spirit up just from your vibe. And you're committed to our people, and that's what I love about you. I would rather see you being born for our people than see a guy making salat 9 times a day and caring less for our people. Then I wouldn't give a damn for him. Islam,
okay.
Islam without application, without loving our people is nothing. The Prophet Muhammad got revelation because he was concerned about his people. That's how he got it. He went into the cave thinking about what was going on in the Hijaz and word, not because he was poor, not because he was a criminal. In fact, he was rich, trustworthy man, but he was concerned about his people, and Allah answered him. And if Allah will answer us, Dr. King was like that. Frederick Douglass was like that. And
Yeah,
I'm
Frederick
like
Douglass.
that.
Yeah, Frederick Douglass of Booker T. I'm about to say Booker T too.
Oh,
I didn't put
yeah,
Booker
Booker T,
T.
Marcus Garvey, we had a whole bunch of us that been
Yeah,
concerned about our people.
yeah, a lot of people. Even Blyden, even Delaney. You
Yeah,
know,
even Paul Coffey. Uh, Let me ask
Paul
you,
Coffey. Yep.
how much longer are we gonna go, dear brothers?
However you want to go. I still have some stuff to cover. I still want.
Let,
I mean,
can we go 12 minutes and then we come back another day?
okay. That's cool.
This is my third show today.
Yeah, third show today. Okay. I want to touch on this before we go. I want to touch on your interfaith work because usually I would have my co-host Jen. I told you my co-host Jen, she's a Buddhist, and me and her do a lot of interfaith talks and a lot of and we're very philosophical. We approach our interfaith work with a philosophy that we coined together called ethical humanitarian discourse. Right? I told you about that. So that's basically the crux of our projects together, and this is one of our projects together. Even though she can't be here today, so I focus more on your history and things like that because she wasn't here. But for the interfaith side, tell us about your history of interfaith. I know you've been big in interfaith. Tell us about history in interfaith, and particularly with Buddhism, and of course, Mr. Thurman, to tell us your history about that and introducing the Imam Warith to the Dalai Lama and how you connected that whole thing. So tell us about your interfaith and tie a little bit and give us special consideration for your interfaith work with Buddhists.
Yes, I would like first to talk about interfaith and how Imam Muhammad was one of the first Muslim leaders to really emphasize interfaith by bringing Rabbi Joshua Haberman to from the Washington Hebrew Synagogue to come to our mosque, and I think it was 1976, 77. During the years that I had fallen out of favor with the Muslim leaders in the association of Imam W.D. Muhammad, I'm sort of a rebel. And so I then got heavily involved in interfaith, Muslim Christian dialogue. And I was involved with a place called the Interfaith Center ran by Dean Morton. So someone asked me one day, did I know Imam Warith Muhammad? I said, certainly I know Imam Warith Muhammad. Do you know the Dalai Lama? I said, no, I don't know the Dalai Lama, but I know who he is. He said, well, the Dalai Lama would like to meet Imam Muhammad. I said, I can arrange that. And I did arrange that. Later on, I was up in Woodstock, where Woodstock was a great big hullabaloo took place. I was there to see a holistic doctor, and there's a very tall lady sitting in the cafe. And I said, who is that? I see people making all the fuss over her. They said, that's Uma Thurman. I said, who in the hell is she? They said, she's a big time actress. I said, really? I don't know anything about it because I don't keep up with popular culture. I said, but would you ask her one question? Is Dr. Thurman, is she in a relationship to Dr. Thurman? She said, that's my dad. I said, I know your dad then. Because he is the foremost authority on Tibetan Buddhism. So I got involved in that. I'm also involved with the World Conference of Religion and Peace, dialoguing with Jains, dialoguing with Hindus, dialoguing with Zoroastrians, Sabians that I didn't even know still existed. So I have dialogue with a lot of people around the issue of saving the planet and really saving humanity. And I hope to see a big world conference calling for a day of prayer. I think if we really think that this virus is going to go away, as long as we continue polluting the earth, and this is the English translation of the Quran, I'm going to tell you, I memorized it in Arabic. They said, evil has appeared on the land for what your own hands sent forth. That plastic bag that you pick up and drop on the ground, about 1 year from now, it's going to choke some whale to death. So we have to see ourselves as one systemic part of creation, and that we are connected in a set of laws, karmatismic relationship. So I'm big on interfaith dialogue. I'm for dialogue of civilizations. I'm for dialogue of philosophical systems. And as I would even tell my Christian evangelicals, I'm ready to dialogue with you. At least while we're on the planet, you may think I'm going to hell. I don't think you're going to hell because you're sincere. You're going to be judged by that. But let's dialogue while we're on the earth and see how we can make the earth a better place. Particularly if we live in the United States of America. Let's see how we can make this a better place. I have a new phrase I'm going to coin, and you're going to get it first on the show. Let's make America greater. Not great again, because you taught me great again. The America of 1950 is not the America that I want to bring back again. America is improving too. Now, you know why I know America is improved? When a Caucasian police officer can be convicted of killing a young African-American man in jail, you tell me America hasn't changed for the better.
Okay, and we'll follow that up because I know my partner, she wants to talk more about interfaith. So the interfaith talk, the interfaith this talk he just had is a precursor to our next talk when I have Jen back. So that's a preview for next time. We're gonna go more into that when Jen in our next conversation when Jen comes, because I know she wants to elaborate on that a lot. So with that said. We're ready for next time. I hope you come back, sir. We come back again for another show. With that being said, I'm gonna close it off for today. And thank you so much, Imam Alfred Muhammad, the veteran, our elder, our respected elder, for coming and letting us sit at your feet and gain wisdom and insight
and
from
thank you for letting me sit at you all feet. Now, there's a story in the Bible, and it's a very interesting social story, that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. Now, you all are not my disciples, but it really, and also in the religion of Islam, during the wudu, we wash our feet, right? The feet is the social connection. So you all, I have sat at your feet, and I hope I wash your feet, and I hope you wash mine. And with that kind of mutual respect, we can grow to be better people. Brother Born Rich, I don't know why I like that name. I'm going to get mad at you. My grandmother was the voodoo lady. I'm going to send a spell on you and call me. Thank you all. I love you all. Any questions you have, I appreciate you. And I'm looking further with further dialogue and honesty and truth. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, everybody, you get it. So everybody, stay tuned. We'll be sure to bring him back when Jen gets back. She'll have a lot to say. We'll have more guests. So thank everybody for coming out. Thank everybody for coming out. Everybody, we love y'all. Salute. With me and Jen. Everybody, peace
Thank
out,
you.
everybody. All right, bye bye. All right, everybody. Jen says many thanks, Imam Muhammad. So I'm out, y'all. I'm done for the day. Thanks everybody for coming out. Every single one who came out. Wait, let me get my shout outs. Timothy just came, but thank you. Of course, Born Rich. Uh, thank Tosh for coming out. Tosh Jeff. Thank Brum, Luton Kashmiri, the Reanimator. Thanks, Luton Kashmiri. I said that already. Why so religious? Thank why so religious. Thank why so religious for coming out. Thank Skyworks. Or say Reanimator. Who else? Thanks. I said Born. Thanks Luton. Who else? Who else was here? Reactionary. Thank you. I said that. Tosh. Everybody who came out. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Sheena Mason, she came out earlier. Sheena Mason, everybody in Fact Chamber. Shout out Ann for setting this up for us. For being the our backstage producer. We need the backstage producer. Thank you so much, everybody. Everybody, thank you. I'm out. Peace out. Ladies Babe, yep. Thank God. I forgot you, everybody. Yeah.